It's been fun hanging out at the Broadway Theater, the new home of Fiddler on the Roof. But now let's head back to the J Roundtable for this month's reviews. And we're back again at the J Roundtable. I'm joined by contributing critic Jesse Oxfeld and our guest critic this episode, Time Out New York's Adam Feldman. Adam, Jesse, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for being here.
So we're talking. I'm glad everybody's
in chorus.
Yes, it's beautiful.
We rehearsed that.
I could tell. It came out really good. We're continuing this month to talk about the Arthur Miller Centennial, and we're going to start with two plays that are on right now: A View from the Bridge, and then we'll go to Incident at Vichy, playing off-Broadway at the Signature Theatre. So, A View from the Bridge, coming to us from London's The Young Vic. What do we think?
I thought it was fantastic. This is a very different, interesting production by the Belgian director Ivo van Hove that is so intense through the whole thing. And what I thought was very interesting, relative to the production, whatever that was, 5 or 7 years ago with Liev Schreiber and Scarlett Johansson, which was also excellent, that was sort of a very traditional production with performances that just like knocked you down. The performances in this one are much smaller and subtler. In this staging that is in this cube with this droning music, and it's sort of the presence of being in this crucible, to use a Millerism, in this ring, that sort of this tension that builds to the inevitable conclusion, which is, in this case, turns into a literal bloodbath. I found it to be really quite thrilling.
I want to talk a little bit more about the morality question that comes up in this show.
Well, what I think is actually interesting and very relevant, you know, there's this attorney who sort of serves as the narrator in Greek chorus, and he makes the point, and it's probably a little bit of a stereotype of Italians and of Sicilians, but that in previous generations, everything was about justice and honor and getting the full loaf. If you've wronged me, I need to get full retribution for that. And in the American system, and in a legalized system, he's a lawyer, it becomes about getting half a loaf and coming to a negotiated middle point. And I think that's an interesting point, really about sort of fundamentalism in all forms, whether it is, in this case, Sicilian notions of honor or Islamic extremists in Paris or Jewish extremists in Jerusalem or whatever it might be. This like key point of, can you be happy with half a loaf, or do you need to get an eye for an eye in every situation?
A View from the Bridge is playing now at the Lyceum Theatre, and you can go and see it for yourself. Another of Arthur Miller's plays that we'll discuss is Incident at Vichy, playing at the Signature Center. Now, this is a more specific morality play. We're in Vichy, France, 1942, where Jewish detainees are in a police station-like building in France, and what will happen next. Very tense. What do we think of this play?
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Some of the dialogue has not aged super well, and this is a problem with Miller across the board, is that some of the dialogue now strikes us as a little bit pontificating or a little bit speechy.
This play was written
in
64, 65, I believe.
Yeah, 1964, and it's very much of its time in that regard. And there's a sort of a hero, tough Jew type who's both a former soldier and a psychoanalyst, and he sort of is the voice of Arthur Miller speaking to the audience.
Also looks very much like John Hamm.
And is a very handsome 1960s hero type. And he has the burden, I think, of a lot of the harder stuff to pull off in this play. There's another character who's not Jewish, who's on stage, played by Richard Thomas, and he's an Austrian aristocrat, and he's sort of a stand-in for the audience, I think. I think Richard Thomas is very, very good in this production. For me, the play is about levels of collaboration, and there are different ways in which that theme is explored, and different characters collaborate with the ongoing Nazi oppression in different ways, including the Jews, including the French officers, including German soldiers who may not be Nazis themselves but are part of the system, including prisoners who do not rebel sufficiently, or sufficiently is a difficult term, but who don't resist in ways that some might want them to. And finally, to the bystander, the Austrian aristocrat and the audience. And the question that the play asks is, what are we willing to tolerate? And I think that is, again, very timely now in terms of what we're facing in the refugee crisis. It asks us, what sacrifices are we actually willing to make, and not just
stand up.
Yeah, and it contrasts that, because the Austrian is very upset by what's happening. He even says that he has contemplated suicide over it. But the question is that sort of sentimental reaction, I feel bad about it and that's all I'm doing, that sort of Facebook update reaction, is that sufficient, or can we ask more of people? And I think that those questions, although there are elements of the play that are dated, I think those questions are very timely.
So another play that's a revival coming next month off Broadway, much later, a musical, not Miller-esque. It's a musical, exactly. Is the revival of Once Upon a Mattress from the Transport Group, and it's starring Jackie Hoffman. It's the real telling of The Princess and the Pig. So the questions, good sleeping habits, if nothing else.
Of the upper aristocracy.
Yes. Are you guys good sleepers?
Not so much anymore, but that's a separate story.
Okay. Adam?
I've never been a great sleeper.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a fantastic sleeper. That and
Congratulations.
yeah, it's on my
I'm
resume.
really proud.
That and
But
I have low
my
blood
sleeping
pressure.
problems are entirely unrelated to legumes, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Have you tested?
That's a good question. Maybe all this time.
There was something under.
Diet too heavy in legumes.
Right. There was something under your mattress, a pea or another legume. And I spoke with Jackie Hoffman about taking on this role and playing a princess, and take a look at that.
I've always been
At first I thought I was just too damn old, but now I've made it mine.
Yes.
So I'm ready to take over.
What's your take on her?
That she's like Mary, a gute neshama. She's really fun. She's really funny. She's a very down-to-earth, real person. She's
Not so shy.
not really shy. She's just a girl from the hood.
I also just got to catch up with Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who were honored recently by Primary Stages. And I think about all of their wonderful work. Do you guys have a favorite Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman musical?
Hairspray is the answer to
Yeah,
that
I mean,
question.
I'm not sure there are other options.
No, but they've done a lot of great work. But Hairspray is the musical of theirs that comes together the most successfully, and I think that they would.
Yes,
be
I
the
mean, to be
first
clear, obviously there are other options. I mean, it's a valid choice for.
But Hairspray is one of the classic modern musical comedies, and both of them have done great work. There's now talk of a Smash musical, of the Bombshell musical, the show within a show from Smash. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Take a look at what Mark and Scott said about their special honor. I always find the basis of your work to be joy. No matter what else comes, it starts with joy. Is that the same for you guys?
Well, you could speak of a lifetime of
Well, being Jewish, it doesn't come naturally, but
the oi does.
I don't know. I mean, Hairspray kind of made it feel that way for us, and that is a wonderful emotion to put across. So Scott and I, our favorite part of Hairspray was to go and stand at the curtain during You Can't Stop the Beat and look at the audience's faces, which was just like, 2,000 people all looking like kindergartners on crack.
And for this boy, it was a lot of joy. So.
Wow.
Finally, there's a lost Yiddish musical being presented by the Volksbühne Theater called The Golden Bride. It's from 1923, and it's being presented by the Volksbühne. Don't miss that, because it's a rare opportunity to see a newfound musical.